when it came to the no tax on tips, that 100% of the Democrats voted against it.
Absolutely.
Coming to you from the Taft Podcast Studio in the heart of JXNGOP headquarters. This is Stars, Stripes, and Straight Talk with Chris and Dave.
Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 2, and we are Stars and Stripes.
Straight Talk
with Chris
and Dave.
And we are talking about what?
Today, I think we're going to talk about the fact that we control the House, Senate, and have POTUS, and yet we don't seem to be doing a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting. But before we get into that, how's your week?
Pretty good. I actually got some farming done this week.
Good.
I mentioned on episode 1, I kind of do some hobby farming, and
that's Axe My Tax.
We'll get into that in a second here. I may have planted a lot of corn.
Nice.
So if you're local and you know me, chances are you're probably going to get a bag of corn dropped off.
Oh, that's awesome.
If I can get the coons from getting it. So I planted it all at the same time this year.
Okay.
So hopefully they can't eat 2 acres of corn at one time.
Right.
So anyway, what have you been up to?
Actually, not a whole lot this week. I've kind of taken care of my wife. She had surgery, been taking her to therapy and all these things. And going to be a grandpa soon, so we're kind of doing that kind of stuff. Thank you. Yeah, but other than that, just, staying busy.
Good. Well, I tell you, it's glad to have everybody back.
Yeah.
And if you're tuning in for episode 2, you must have been okay with episode 1.
Absolutely. And hey, something that we should talk about real fast before we go right into this topic. We should take the time to say thank you to our sponsor for this week's episode, JXNGOP.
Yes.
The Jackson County Republican Party for sponsoring us. I appreciate that. If you want to sponsor the channel, I'll have a link in the description for our email address, and you can reach out to us. And, starting out on YouTube, it takes a while before you can start to do anything. You need to have at least 1,000 subscribers before you get a lot of traction. So we're going to just keep plugging away at that. And hopefully sponsorships will help us get to there a little bit faster. So thanks again to JXNGOP.
Yeah, that, and then I don't want to blow too much. I think we got some pretty good guests lined up coming up soon. So
I heard, and
stay tuned. We might have some big hitters coming in. So
I think we also have a couple more sponsors that we haven't finalized just yet.
Yeah, we should get that in.
Well, we'll get.
But you mentioned my hat. So
yeah,
I'm gonna pull that out there. Yeah, I got the chrome dome going. Axe My Tax.
Axe My Tax.
So I helped them out a lot last time, but unfortunately, with everything I had mentioned, all the things that got going, I had to step back a little bit. But it's a citizens initiative to eliminate property tax.
Oh, I'm in. Property tax.
You know how many people surprisingly are not in when you ask them to sign the petition?
I'm going to tell you why I'm in. You already know, like I said last week, I'm a disabled veteran. I'm on a fixed income. That means, for all of you who don't know, I'm 1 millage away from losing my house at any given moment.
Yep.
Because every time that there's a millage, the property tax goes up. And it screws the people whose income don't change because, we're on disability. So, yeah, I'm all for getting rid of property taxes.
Yeah, so if you get axmytax.org, check them out. We might even do an episode on understanding property tax, because during my time with that organization, I learned a lot.
Yeah,
and it's amazing how many people, okay, I know it's a podcast. Raise your hand.
No, drop a thumbs up.
There you go.
In the comments.
I'm new to the digital age.
I was just gonna say that. Drop a thumbs up in the comments.
Drop a thumbs up if you actually read your property tax bill, because a lot of people get their property taxes escrowed. They never look at it because it's always paid.
Yep.
They just put it in the thing. But once my wife because we started paying ours separate and not escrowing it, and she saw how much we paid to the local library, she goes, "Oh, that library isn't free, is it?"
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Because I can buy a lot of books for what we do for that. So anyway, let's get into today's topic.
Yeah, please.
So today we're going to talk about the fact we had the House, we had the Senate, and it's more Washington. We're going to get into some more local stuff as more local stuff comes up as well. But what's some of the things that we could start doing better, One of the things that I have down here, Chris, we got to learn from the Democrats.
What did you say?
I know sit down,
pump
relax,
your brakes,
take
a breath.
Brakes. But if you ever had a situation where you're like, how could they support that? because they support the party.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So when they go for this radical left thing and your centrist Democrat is lockstep with them,
Right.
it's because they support the party.
Right. And historically, Republicans don't.
Right.
We will infight before we all work together. And that's why there's a lot of things I bet on your list that we should be able to get accomplished, but we won't.
Right. And the nice thing about that, with the Democrats is, and learning from that, is, what the great orator Obama, we won, elections have consequences, right?
That's right.
Have you ever heard a Democrat go on a thing and say, well, we wanted to do that, but we weren't sure what the Republicans would think about it?
Never.
They do
Never.
it. Right. So we have full control. We can introduce a bill. We can pass it to the House. We can get it to the Senate. And as long as it's not a piece of garbage, Trump's going to sign it. Right. So with that being said,
until they send it up to the Supreme Court.
Well,
and then
then
it's a coin toss. Let's be honest. They just stopped the whole deportation deal.
Yep.
The Supreme Court said he can't use the law from 1871 to deport people. So now he's back to square one. But
why can't we use that law? Is it still law?
It's still law. They found something. I have to go back and read all of the notes, but I caught it on the news that Supreme Court blocked deporting using that particular law because I think it's based on some specific country or something, and he was trying to use it as an immigration.
But again, and that's where with control on the immigration front,
right?
Write a bill.
Right.
Write a bill.
Absolutely.
This is the new law for deportation.
Yep.
This is the new law that affects people coming in right now. If the one from what year?
It was 1871 or
if
something.
If that one's not relevant anymore, write a new one.
Yeah.
Right? We have control.
Absolutely.
You can do that. But the problem is they got to have a clear agenda. Right?
Right.
So remember old Newt with the contract with America?
Right.
There was a clear agenda. Right now, we have Trump's agenda, which I agree with a lot of it.
Right.
Right. But there's no centralized agenda for the rest of the party.
No. There's no vision.
There's no vision, right? So, if we pick the key things, immigration, taxes, and a few of the other ones. Like I know Trump was talking about no taxes for anybody under $200,000.
Yeah, no tax on tips and all that.
No tax on tips, right? So the key is we need to bring these things in. We need to get them pushed through. Because at the end of the day, and I got a good friend on Facebook who's always like, don't these people know this? They don't. Because unfortunately, if you're getting all of your news from the major news,
right.
you don't know that, when it came to the no tax on tips, that 100% of the Democrats voted against it.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
100%
But
voted
it's everything. Anything that's going to help Americans, middle class America, the Democrats are voting against. And you know what's crazy?
Yep.
I don't even think they agree with the vote.
No.
If they were
voting against the Republicans.
If they were being honest, they're voting against Trump. They're not voting against a Republican.
Trump.
And if they were being honest, right?
Yep.
They would look at it and say, this is helping all Americans. But they're so bent on making Trump the villain and push this crazy radical theory that it's
Well, one of the couple of things that we can do on that, and I want to tell a quick story about this control thing, right? So we all know our buddy Ted Cruz down in Texas, right? So I was following him for a while on social media, and he gave this big lecture about term limits.
Yeah. We need them.
Where's it at, Ted?
We need them.
Where's that?
Right.
Well, I put together this bill, but, the Democrats in the Senate won't elevate it to get into.
Now they can.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So
I think if we're being honest, the Republicans should look at every single policy for the last decade that they've said, we need to do this. We need to do that. Just do it.
Yep.
If you don't do it, then it's just political theater
Oh, it is.
And
it's absolutely.
I no
political,
longer
too.
want to
Yeah.
watch the show.
So, I mean, a couple of things that, I think would be on my top list right here. Obviously, we have, we talked about eliminating the federal income tax for under
Right.
anyone under 200K.
Right.
School vouchers. Trump has talked
Yep.
about that. Let's put a program in place. Now, I know you attended private school.
Sure.
My kids are both going to private school. And that's a whole show on itself
Right.
on why, I chose to go that route, right? Especially nowadays with a lot of the
Right.
stuff that I'm sure we'll get into other episodes. But some of these things, just put them together. Let's get them passed.
Yeah.
But here's one of the reasons why. So, quick little note: my father-in-law lives with us,
Yeah.
and probably one of the smartest men I've ever met.
Okay.
Okay. I used to call him a nuclear physicist, and he corrected me that was a downgrade. He's a cyclotron physicist.
Oh.
So he actually ran.
So he's the guy that makes the atoms explode.
Yes, he did that for a living, and he helped build the
That's
machine
awesome.
that did it up at Michigan State, right?
That's awesome.
So, he actually has a Substack too, and I'm going to put the Substack in the link down below.
Okay.
He does some great writing. But so one of the smartest, conversations with him sometimes are tough because he's so
Sure.
smart, right? I'm barely got out of high school, right? So one day he told me, he goes, you know what the problem with Washington? He goes, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Explain?
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I'm about to call him nuclear again. A cyclotron physicist just wrap something up with a sports analogy. He goes, yeah. He goes, the Democrats are the Harlem Globetrotters.
How?
They're flashy. They're out there.
Gotcha.
They're the
Gotcha.
they're the flashy party. We're about entertainment. They're about the platitudes and everything.
Right.
He goes, the guys getting down to business, the Washington Generals are the Republicans.
They're the ones that always get whipped.
But at the end of the day, they're on the same team.
True.
And they're all taking a cut of the gate.
True.
So when we hear Senator Cruz talk about term limits, it's all political posturing.
Yeah.
When now that the Democrats are voting against tips, it's political posturing. But at the end of the day, guess what? They're all in the same subcommittees. They're all getting the same contracts. They're all hooking up to each other's families. They're all doing insider trading.
Right.
It's them versus us.
Yeah.
We're there watching the show.
Right. It's all political theater.
Harlem Globetrotters is not a game.
Right.
It's not a sporting event.
Right.
It's entertainment.
Exactly.
And that's what we have going on in Washington.
That's a great analogy.
Isn't it, from someone so
That is,
advanced
that's
to
an
bring it down
amazing,
to so simple,
That's
right?
an amazing analogy.
So when you think about it, we're just along for the ride.
Absolutely.
They got the show going on, and we're just pawns in their chess. And at the end of the day, they're enriching themselves. You got a bartender who goes to Washington. Next thing you know, she's worth $43 million.
Using that analogy, that's why they hate Trump so bad.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he's not running.
He ain't on either team.
He's not in the same play.
No.
This man has princes giving him jet planes with royal purple staircases, doing sword dances. He's got China dropping tariffs. He's got everything. Every country capitulating to Trump, and it's driving everyone else crazy because he don't care what act or scene you're in. He's taking care of the country.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because for the first time in a long time, I actually feel like I'm being represented.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, does he need us? No. He could have rode off into the sunset a long time ago.
Right.
But now,
well, I'm gonna push back a little. Yes, he does. He needs us to step up and vote.
No.
So that he can keep that number, so that he can stay in control.
Yes. What I mean is, him personally,
No.
does not need to be president.
No.
He doesn't need money. But the thing is he's gone to Washington and watched his net worth go down,
Right.
not up,
Right.
and that scares people. That's like the cop who's not on the tape.
Oh, because exactly.
He's not. It's like we're all
he's
on the
not
tape,
on the- he's
and
not
you're not
playing the
taking the
game.
juice.
He's not
right?
playing the game
Yeah,
that they
he's
want
not
to
playing
play.
the game with them anymore. So that's why I think you're getting as much pushback
Right.
from the Republican side as you do the Democrat on Trump, because he's not part of the Globetrotters.
Absolutely.
He ain't on the Globetrotters. He ain't on the Generals.
Right.
And he ain't taking a cut of the gate, and it scares them.
Right.
That's why neither team wants him there.
That's crazy.
In a lot of cases when you think about that, right? So with that being said, how can we accomplish some of this, Chris? How can we get some of these bills passed?
How can they get them passed? Just by doing it.
Okay. Well, I got a few.
I mean,
philosophies
seriously.
here. You ready for the simple mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Break it down to me, Fred and Barney style.
2 to 3 page bills.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Think about it. So if my entire bill was 2 pages and I said, we're going to do school vouchers, you're going to get this and you're going to get that, and it's going to allow inner city kids to go to these private schools because we're going to take that tax money and we're going to send it over there. Now, the problem is when we confuse these things and they're like, well, I was going to support that bill, but there was language in there that said this.
Right. It's all stuff they hide.
It's all the stuff they stick in the thousands of pages. Right. So, and it works twofold, right?
Right.
So, one, it allows us to go through and get a fair, honest opinion of who voted for what bill.
Yep.
Because the thing is that there's bills out there like, well, there was a Second Amendment bill that they didn't support. Okay, they didn't support the Second Amendment bill because on page 798, there was funding for abortions.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that we
and
have
you
to
know,
limit
if they did that, we wouldn't need Doge.
Right.
Everything would be clear cut, transparent.
Oh, it's because we're going to need Doge for a while. There's a lot of cleanup work, right? But
it's got an expiration date.
Yeah.
And Musk is already pulling back from it.
But if we kept it simple, right? 2 3-page bills and single issue bills.
Yeah, single issue bills would be amazing.
So if my bill was to eliminate taxes and tips for X, that should be the only thing on there.
Right.
You know,
sometimes I feel like a parent. Like we're laying out the rules that you need to follow, and I can hear the Congress people, senators, why that's a bad idea.
Yes.
Right? Here's my take. If you'd have played ball the right way the first time, we wouldn't have to take away the ball.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be in timeout right now.
Well, and unfortunately, I doubt they're going to listen to my recommendations, but this is what we need people running on this type of platform.
Absolutely.
Which is why we have primaries, right? And we'll get into that another one. But if you went through and you did these simplistic bills, now the Democrat has to stand on why he voted against it.
Exactly.
The Republican has to stand on why they voted against it or they didn't support it. You know, when you have multi-tier bills, you have all this pork, all this fat.
Right.
And that's where it gets turned into, okay, well, I'll support your bill, but, you know, my brother-in-law would like to build a fountain in the city of our town. Okay, great. We'll put that in there. Yeah, we'll put this in there, you know. And the next thing you know, now you're back up to 700-800 pages.
Exactly.
You know, you keep it to single-page issues, and now you have to defend your position because you can't give an excuse that somewhere in page 698 is why I didn't support this thing.
Right.
You know?
Most of these people don't even read that. They just look at what is it about. Look,
well,
find
remember,
a cliff
Nancy,
note.
we're going to have to pass the bill to find out what's in it.
Exactly.
Wow, that's actually the opposite way of going.
But that's the reality.
Yep. All right, here's another idea. You know, all the technology we have, you know, sports books and, you know, real-time information. You know, hold a press conference before the vote. Read the entire bill because it's only going to be 2 pages.
Right.
Right? And then tally up who voted which way.
Yeah.
You know? And then when you tally that, because again, it's technology, we have apps, right? Okay, your Michigan Center voted no against get rid of tips. Here's their direct communication information.
Right.
Let's call them and find out why they voted against it. Because they can't give you any reason besides I just didn't do it. Because if it's the only thing on the bill,
right? There's no hidden.
There's
nothing
no
to hide
hidden
behind.
excuses built into it.
Nothing to hide behind.
Nothing to hide behind, right? So if we kept them simple, you know, we let people know about the bill, and we just let them know how these people voted,
right?
And start getting them engaged, because that's a big problem. Is that we get busy, right?
Sure.
I mean, crap, it takes you 4 days to get a hold of me sometimes, right?
Yeah, we get busy.
You know, and but at the end of the day, you know, this is the country we live in. You defended it, right? Right. I mean, you went off to war to defend this country, and at the end of the day, you know, all we're asking is our elected officials to do what's right.
Right.
Put the issues up that we want to see. If you believe in the issue, put that issue forward. Don't put it into a bill with 9,000 other things. Because these bills should take about 7 seconds.
Right.
To write,
but the problem
and about
with
7
that,
seconds to vote on.
We're in a broken system, though.
We are.
Right. Even a 2-page bill, you still got people that are going to filibuster for days.
Yep.
Right? They're going to filibuster. They're going to just eat up the clock and then just create more and more tension. And then they're going to go back to the table. And
But
now
we're in control right now.
But that 2-page bill is going to turn into a 4-page bill because now someone's going to say, I'll give you the vote, but I need this. Can we just stick it in there? And you'll never, you know how it is.
We are in control. That's the
No,
whole
and I
point of this
agree with
segment.
you.
We are in control.
Yeah.
So we can bring the bill to the floor, and we can call a vote
But
for the bill.
That takes leadership with the cojones to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes
All it takes is one, man. It takes one person to step out and do what's right. I remember when who was it, McCarthy, that they mocked him for only having $100,000.
Right. Yeah, they did. They they treated
I mean,
him like
to
he
me,
was nothing.
That's like a badge of honor.
Right.
If I'm in Congress and I only got $100,000 in the bank, that means I'm probably doing something right.
Exactly.
You know, because the job don't pay that much.
Let us know in the comments, do you agree with Dave's idea of cutting out all the fat, bringing it down to one item bill so that we can actually see what each person votes for or against?
Yep.
And they have no other excuse to hide behind. Let us know in the comments because I'm curious to see how many people think that that's a good plan.
Because it is that double-edged sword.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You know, because they can play the gotcha.
Oh yeah, that's the game.
The gotcha game. You know, like, well, they didn't support this. It's like, well, they didn't support it because what was further on in the bill.
You know, by doing that too, it will completely take the wind out of the sails of the mainstream media.
Yes.
They can't spin it either.
Yeah, there's no
They
spin.
can't do they voted to kick out all of the whatever.
Yep.
Because now it's just going to be, no, just read the first line.
Yep, that's it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
You know, call your senator and congressman,
Right.
write them, send them an email.
Tell them to watch this podcast.
Tell them to watch the podcast, get some good
We
ideas.
got the answers. Tell them Stars, Stripes, and Straight Talk is figured out.
Get it up. Well, you know, and it's nothing new. I mean, we talked about this in the past, but the hard part is getting people there
Right.
to do the right thing, right? Because it used to be when people would run for office, you didn't run for office.
No.
I would come to you and say, Chris, I want you to go represent us. And you'd be like, dude, I can't. I'm busy. I'm running a
Right.
farm.
Right.
You know, I got things going on. I'm like, no, but you speak for us. You understand our issues. We
Right.
want you to go. And you would fight me on it
Right.
for months and months.
But
And then,
you know, that's the person you need.
that's the person we want.
The person that doesn't want to be there but has the capability to do the job, that's who we need.
So the question is are we going to get in the weeds and talk about candidates? And why somebody
On this episode?
Are we going to save that for later?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Well, you've mentioned it in the past, and you kind of told me a story you had about speaking with a pastor about.
Oh
candidates.
no, let's make that. That's a long.
Okay.
That'll
Well,
be its own. That'll
right.
be in the next episode. So you make sure you hit that like and ring that bell.
This is good. So if you are political at all, and of faith at all,
Yeah,
you are definitely going to want to check out that episode because
we're diving deep.
We're diving deep, you know, from a Christian
Unfortunately,
biblical perspective.
Unfortunately, because we're coming at this from a biblical perspective, there are going to be, and I'm saying it right now, disclaimer, full disclaimer, there are going to be Republicans that are going to be so angry with what we're about to say.
You know, the best part
They are
is?
going to be so angry because facts don't care about your feelings, and this is biblical truth.
Yep.
And they're not going to like it.
No, they're not going to like it. But hey, we don't go out straight for talk for nothing.
That's right. So ring that bell so when that episode drops, you'll be the first to see it.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, start where we're at on time, Chris.
I think we're pretty good. We
Okay.
can do what you want.
So if we want to start wrapping it up, you know, I think in summary here,
Yeah.
you know, God bless the fact that we have Trump in office right
Absolutely.
now. Right?
Absolutely.
We have a good leader. Now we just need everyone else to follow suit, get the core essential things done. Because what's going to be important is if we can simplify, get the core things done like taxes,
Right.
things that are undisputable, couple one-page bills, you're going to sway a lot more voters from the midterms.
True.
Because the actions speak louder than words, right? And if there's no fat, there's no pork, and there's no excuses, then we can stand on these votes going into the midterms and say, this is what we've accomplished without their help.
Exactly.
So, all right.
I agree. So once again, thanks to you guys for watching. And if you didn't catch what he was just saying at the end, he said it at least 2 times. This next episode is going to be diving deep biblically about the midterms.
Yes.
So it's not going to be just, he's going to take us to church. No, we're going to be talking about the midterm election, why it's so important, why we always seem to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And how we have an ideas on how we can fix it.
Yeah.
So,
but we need your help.
That's exactly. Hit that like, ring the bell, drop comments. Until next time, I'm Chris.
I'm Dave, and God bless America.